What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buffalo Blitz right here on the Built in Buffalo Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter network. We appreciate everyone that is clicking on this live show, this episode. And if you do miss this episode, you can always rewatch it on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you prefer the podcast version, it comes out tomorrow morning on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. Lance, how we doing?
Doing all right. Peter and Bill's Mafia, how you doing?
They're doing good. We got a jam-packed show. We have a guest coming on. We'll bring them on in a couple minutes. We're going to be breaking down a ton of the AFC East. We kind of have a little segue between minicamp and then training camp that doesn't start until end of July. And if you guys are in the comment section, comment. Let us know what you guys want to talk about. All that fun stuff. We'll be reading comments throughout the night. But Lance, make sure you tell everyone where they can find our sponsor and what our sponsor is.
Yeah, we're sponsored by Underdog Fantasy, the best daily fantasy app in all of daily fantasy. And if you use promo code BIB at signup, you will receive a deposit match. Promo code Blitz at signup, you will receive a deposit match from $10 up to $100. Right now, Best Ball Mania 4 is going on. Got to get in it to win it. Go ahead and sign up now. $3 million to first place, $15 million in total prizes. Go sign up at underdogfantasy.com or with the Underdog Fantasy app. Use promo code Blitz, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100.
Yeah, make sure you guys check all that out. Like we said, comment section. Feel free to comment. Chris, what's up? Hi, Alex. Hi, Mrs. Hi, Nance. Hi, Lance's mom. What's up, Kenny? Gotta be up at 2 a.m. for work, but stay there for the show. Man, that's some dedication.
Man,
that is some dedication. Holy cow. State, oh my God. That you know what? That's why Kenny's probably our number one fan. We love everyone, but Kenny's awesome. And Junie, how we doing tonight? Time to bring on our guest as we're breaking down some Diggs talk, some AFC East talk, and that is the founder of the Built in Buffalo Network. The reason we're talking here and we're speaking here on this platform, Dave Myers. How we doing, Dave?
Good, Peter Lance. How's it going? I'm
Good.
excited to talk about this stuff. I kind of threw myself into your show, so thank you for
boss.
having me.
You're the boss.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to start the comeback tour. So let's get into some AFC East talk.
Yeah, but I think before we get into some AFC East talk, that's what the title is, and that's what you guys can be talking about in the comment section, all that stuff. We might have to talk a little bit about Stefon Diggs. Once again, we thought it was potentially out of the woodwork when he showed back up to minicamp last. Was it Tuesday he showed back up or Wednesday? No, Wednesday, because we did the show Tuesday when he didn't show up. So Wednesday. He showed back up, and it felt good. Everyone was took a deep breath. Came out today from Craig Carton, who you can say is a reliable source. You can say he's not. I'm going to say he's not. I'm assuming most people will agree with me, but it's your opinion, up to you. Saying that there was a potential, some still a riff, and that he's mad they didn't sign DeAndre Hopkins, and he did this. What did he do? Signing bonus. Signing bonus, so he wouldn't. So he can get DeAndre Hopkins. I lost my train of thought there for a second. But then Ian Rappaport reported about 30 minutes ago that it's not a DeAndre Hopkins issue. It's not a Ken Dorsey issue, and it should be wrapped up by training camp. So, Lance, let's get your quick thoughts, and then we'll go to Dave, and then we can get to AFC East on some of the Diggs stuff from today.
Yeah, I kind of posted on Twitter just kind of like, there's obviously something that's amiss there, and it probably has something to do with his utilization. I was listening to WGR and Shope and the Bulldog, and they say that it shouldn't be a football thing and that there should be no issue with utilization, and I completely disagree. I think that Stefon Diggs is probably mad because when the season was on the line and he worked his ass off to get to where he was, people kind of fell flat around him. The defenses were able to take him away. No one else was able to step up. You notice that he wasn't as mad after the 13 seconds loss because the offense never got to go back out on the field. So the offense did their part. Gabe Davis had a record-breaking performance. He had no problem not having the stats for that game. But when he's unable to get the stats, he's unable to have the impact on the game that he wants. I get it. Like, he's going to have an issue when they're losing games. He wants to win. He's a winner. And, that's my thought on it.
Dave?
I think it's Allen said in his press conference it's not football related, and then some of the reporters tried to steer him back to saying, well, how is it not football related? And I think there's some other things happening, behind the scenes that obviously we're not going to get the information. It probably won't ever come out if it does come out, because the Bills are tight-lipped about stuff. But I mentioned this in our group chat earlier today that since the season ended, some weird stuff's been going on with the Bills, and they typically are not in the limelight in the offseason. It's typically pretty quiet at One Bills Drive, but we had Chad Hall left, and I know Diggs was close with Chad Hall, and Chad Hall left to take a job elsewhere. He said that what he could do here was pretty much a wrap, and he wanted a new journey in his life. And then Leslie Frazier left. Don't know if he was pushed out or if that was a mutual decision or, how that went. So it's just odd to me that he brings, he comes to his medical testing. He does all his physicals and stuff the day of or the day before mandatory minicamp, talks to coach, and then he goes home. So we were talking before we came on air. Is an issue with the play calling? Is it something that he thinks hasn't been addressed? Has the team, anybody from the team, not reached out to him since February? And I know there's a lot of things out there about people saying that he wants to be involved in the play calling and personnel and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's going to come to a resolution, but I can tell you that the one person that I would believe is Josh Allen, because we know those guys are thick as thieves. And if Josh Allen's been positive, more so talking about Diggs here in the past couple weeks than he has all off season, you got to think that there's something to it. And it looks like the more that practice went on and they did some team stuff last week, it looked like those two were starting to get back, in form of Allen and Diggs and what we've known for the last 3 years. So it's going to be interesting. It's a dry time right now. There's a month until we actually have them back at camp. It's the Bills' summer vacation. So you're going to see stuff popping up all over the place about what's going on with Diggs and what's going on with the Bills and all that stuff. But I would trust Ian Rappaport. He's a guy who's wrong a lot more, or he's right a lot more than he's wrong. So, I mean, if they come back and he seems happy, then we run with it, and maybe they squash it, from now until then. So we'll just have to stay positive, because I don't think that there was ever a time where Diggs didn't want to be here in Buffalo. I don't think there was ever a time when he didn't want to be a part of this team and a part of what he's already built going forward. I think it was just he wants to be heard, and he absolutely should be heard. And for some experts to say that he should just, strap up his chin strap and just go catch passes, like there's more to it than that. Like,
he's a human being.
His best friend on the team is Josh Allen. And if those guys can't be in sync and they're on the same page and they have the same understanding of what this offense is and how it runs, there's going to be issues. And he has every right to have his voice heard. And I think that it should be. So we'll find out next month. We'll find out once camp rolls around if everything's, water under the bridge, or if there's something that's long-term going to happen. So we'll see. We'll see.
I think we also kind of forget that, like I said, we do sometimes, NFL players or athletes in general are human beings, and they have feelings. They have every right to react in a certain way. We don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with how Diggs has handled his off seasons. Look, I think there's some things he handled okay. I didn't mind. And then there's also some things that he didn't handle properly. Some of the social media things and all that stuff, liking some other team's posts, stuff like that, which is childish thing, but people get mad and people get annoyed. But Ian Rappaport said today, and Dave, you just mentioned that, trust Josh Allen. And he said, Ian Rappaport said today, trust Josh Allen's word. So I think that's the best source we can get, and we're going to get. We're never going to officially, I don't think, find out what happened, but I think it's coming to a resolution. And we have a month, right? And they're going to do something in that month. You know what? You know what I'd love to see? A picture of Josh Allen and Diggs vacationing together. I don't know. We just saw LeBron James and Draymond Green vacationing together. And then ESPN ran with it thinking that they might link up after Draymond Green declined his player option. So I know that's a different sport, but I'm going somewhere in that kind of realm. Will they? Who knows? But I think we're okay. I think we're going to be okay. I think we're okay. I think we were still okay when all three of us were talking on Tuesday last week when it was crazy and it was chaotic, and I still thought we were okay. So we'll get there. Lance, anything else before we move to the fun, competitive AFC East?
I'm kind of chomping at the bit to talk AFC East. I think the Diggs stuff has really ran its course. So if you haven't done so, smash the like, hit the share and subscribe button on YouTube. Go over to our Facebook page, check out the merch shop we have there. Incredible stuff that our guy Dave here has come up with and things like that. So get in on all the merch. There's a hat shop and other things in the bio on Facebook page. And make sure you're also subscribed or following our Twitter page.
Yeah, Diggs targets and catches took a dip in the later half of the season. We've multiple people, Lance mentioned it. We all mentioned that type of thing. And yeah, it's happened. It's happened in playoff games. It's that type of thing. So that's something that you can work out. Let's get to the AFC East. Well, we got a fun, interesting division this year. We're talking about the New England Patriots with Mac Jones bringing in Bill O'Brien. Obviously, still Bill Belichick, a good defense, even though one of their starting corners is arrested and probably won't play this year, which was a crazy scene a couple days ago. Then you have the New York Jets bringing in Aaron Rodgers, bringing back a young core and a great defense. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall should be back with the ACL injury. Obviously, the main storyline is Aaron Rodgers. Then you have the Miami Dolphins bringing in Jalen Ramsey. Do they have a healthy Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, flurry of talent, Mike McDaniel, who annoys everyone, including me. So we're going to start with the New York Jets. We're going to start with a crazy question here and a bold question. Are the Jets Super Bowl contenders with Aaron Rodgers? Lance, what do we got?
Are the Jets Super Bowl contenders with Aaron Rodgers? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm not. Yes, I'm asking. That's what I'm asking.
No. They're not even contenders for the division.
Should I
think that I am not on this Aaron Rodgers train, man. I'm just not. I don't think that the Jets are going to be going out and beating the pants off people. I know that they were competitive with subpar quarterback play, and then that average or above average quarterback play is theoretically going to get them over the top. I'm excited to see Garrett Wilson work with a real quarterback. I think he's going to have a nice season, but overall, I just don't see them putting it together. Everyone's under the impression that Breece Hall is going to come back to be this monster, and you don't know that after a knee injury. So, they do have some nice pieces, and Aaron Rodgers obviously has done a lot of good things in his career, but I think that his career is too far into the sunset, in my opinion, to be coming out and contending for a Super Bowl.
Before we get to Dave, Lance, did you read the show notes before we hopped on here, man?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's make sure, because you approved this question. Okay. Dave, what do you got?
Super Bowl contenders, no, I absolutely think that they are a threat to the Bills in the AFC East. He's right about Breece Hall, a running back who puts a lot of they put a lot of wear and tear on their lower half, just because cutting and getting started and all that stuff. A lot of other technical stuff that I can go into, but a lot of what they do is predicated on, the lower half of their body, and him coming off that injury, it might take him a little bit to get going, but I do like Breece Hall. I think that he is a special talent. One thing about Aaron Rodgers is statistically last year, now he didn't have a great supporting cast. Obviously they traded Devontae Adams away, and he was, throwing to some average to below average receivers all season, but statistically didn't have a good season at all. one of the worst he's had. And if you look at it on paper, with the roster he had, you can't blame the guy. So do I think he's going to come in and magically make them Super Bowl contenders? No, but he does have Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Corey Davis, and Mecole Hardman. So that's probably the best receiving core he's had in a while. So they have that going for him. Plus they have a really good defense. We saw what the defense did to the Bills in the 2 games they played last year. They held the Bills to the Bills didn't score a touchdown until 30 seconds left in the second quarter of the second game they played. And they actually outnetted the Bills in yards in that game. So, say what you want about Aaron Rodgers is old and this and that, but I think at 40 years old, I think he's still a pretty reliable quarterback. I don't think they're the favorites to win the East because obviously I'm a Bills fan. I think the Bills, it runs through Buffalo regardless. But yeah, I think they're legitimate contenders to, look at last year. They beat the Bills and they almost beat the Bills in the second game. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if the Bills did enough to counteract what they did on offense. If Breece Hall comes back, if Aaron Rodgers has rapport with all these receivers and stuff like that, there's going to be a lot that is going to have to go into it. Plus, they have a defensive-minded head coach. So,
who do you guys think is going to be like that wide receiver too after Garrett Wilson? Is it going to be Hardman or is it?
Well, that's what's kind of one of my points of why I think the Jets are 100%. Like, I'm going to answer your question in a second. I think the Jets are 100% division contenders, right? I think outside of the Patriots, there's 3 teams contending. There's a difference between contending and favorite for the division, right? Like, I think like the Bengals in the AFC North, I think the Ravens and like Bengals are both contending. I think the Bengals probably win that, but there's like multiple teams usually contending each year for divisions outside of a handful of divisions or when the Patriots ruled the AFC East for many, many years. But their depth at receiver and their talent at receiver is kind of interesting, right? Like Garrett Wilson, right? He's huge expectations year 2 for Garrett Wilson. He was great year 1. Expectations year 2 are different, right? You got to take that second step to superstar potential because that's where he has to go from here. After that, for the Jets, right? I'm not an Alan Lazard lover. Like, I don't think he's anything special. Mecole Hardman's solid, but he's not anything crazy. Corey Davis has shown nothing since he's been with the Jets. Denzel Mims, they don't refuse to use. And Randall Cobb, we're in the wrong year for Randall Cobb. It's not 2015. It's 2023, whenever Randall Cobb was in his prime a handful of years ago. So I think the Jets' outside talent isn't as crazy as we think it is. Dave, I agree. I think Aaron Rodgers is upgrading when it comes to talent around him. But I still don't think I don't think the Jets wide receiver room competes with the Bills or the Dolphins wide receiver room. I think it 100% competes with the Patriots because the Patriots lack talent, and that's why they're rumored and targeting DeAndre Hopkins. They need talent on that outside. They need a guy to step up wide receiver 2 massive because is Garrett Wilson ready to take that wide receiver 1 step, right? Like he had a good rookie year. There's a difference between being like a really good receiver, having a good rookie year, like throwing into the mix, all that stuff, like expectations coming in. Is Garrett Wilson ready to be that true number 1, like a Justin Jefferson, like a Stephon Diggs, like a Jamar Chase, right? Like those are massive expectations. And we know like Aaron Rodgers expects the moon out of his wide receivers, right? And if that falls short, or Garrett Wilson falls short, this Jets team will fall short. We are not talking about Garrett Wilson as a proven veteran. Like he's not a proven veteran. I think the world of Garrett Wilson, right? I think he's going to be a great receiver. I think he had a great rookie year. But we still need to see it from him. Like it's year 2 of Garrett Wilson. This isn't year 6 or 7 of Garrett Wilson. Is he Justin Jefferson year 2 or is he Mike Williams year 2, right? Like, is he that type of guy like where we all thought Mike Williams would turn into a superstar? Mike Williams is a very good receiver, but he's not a number 1 on a Super Bowl contending team. He can be your number 2. Can't be your number 1. Is Garrett Wilson going to be a number 1 on a bad team? Or is he going to turn into a number 1 on a contending Super Bowl team? That's a huge storyline. I think that people are just writing in Garrett Wilson as that superstar receiver. I think he'll get there. It doesn't mean it's going to happen.
I think, too, with people are poo-pooing on Lazard and Cobb because they're not superstars, but they have familiarity with Aaron Rodgers. He has trust in them. So,
yeah.
I think it's like the Bills. It's like the Bills bringing back Brown and Bees, right? Like we could have probably picked any guys off the street,
I
but
just
they brought in guys that have the experience and the trust from the quarterback. Because basically after Garrett Wilson, those are a lot of what if guys. Mecole Hardman was used in Kansas City for he wasn't a gadget guy, but he was your yak guy. He was the guy that you throw a slant route to, and hopefully he with his speed can take it to the house, or he was effective on kickoffs and punt returns. It wasn't they didn't bring all these guys in just to think that they're all going to be superstars, but they also have a quarterback that can make these guys and get the best out of them, and have them all be role players. If you put them up against the Bills wide receiving core, yeah, it's not as good, but they also have a quarterback that will know how to divvy up the target share for all these guys. If Garrett Wilson's covered, he's got these other guys that he trusts will make a catch and make a play when he needs it. And he didn't have that in Green Bay last year. He had a bunch of middle of the road guys that weren't producing. So you bring him in. He wanted these guys. You brought him in to show trust in him, and to show that you are going all out to get this guy what he wants to bring him here. I will say though, if it doesn't work out for the Jets, like they've put themselves in not a great situation cap wise and draft capital wise.
It's a 2-year window, right? Like
right.
We say the Bills window is closing, and it's not, because as long as you have a superstar young quarterback, you're gonna have a chance, right? Like it might not be the best roster ever, but you're gonna have a chance with Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, those type of guys. Like Rodgers max a 2-year window. If it doesn't work, you kind of just failed, and you have to kind of restart your whole drafting a quarterback game. Like you're back in 2 years with drafting a quarterback or go getting a veteran. You know what I mean? Like, and you might have a Super Bowl roster, but you also like. I want to say, I think I agree with you. Lance, I'll get to you in a second. I just want to make this point before I forget it. But like I agree with Dave with you. Like Lazard, 100%. I think Lazard's still a legit receiver. I think Randall Cobb's kind of past his prime. He hasn't had over 800 yards since 2019, but he's a veteran, good locker room guy, that kind of type of thing. So, but yeah, I think, and Roy's coming. Wilson did it with subpar quarterbacks, and now with Rodgers, he should be even better. I'm not saying Wilson won't have a great year. It's just when the expectations of you being a true wide receiver one. Like I said, there's a difference between being a wide receiver one and a true wide receiver one. When those expectations are, it's a huge expectation, right? Like you are expected to carry the offense. You're expected to go against every best corner. I'm not saying he's not going to do it, but it's not as easy as just saying great rookie year, good rookie year. He's automatically a legit wide receiver one. He's on the trajectory of being one, but it doesn't mean right away he's going to be one. I think it's just a little, I think he will be. I'm going to preface that, but I just think it's hard to write someone in right away. Sorry, Lance.
Yeah, I was more thinking Garrett Wilson and I didn't really articulate this, so it's my bad. I'm thinking Garrett Wilson as like a fantasy wide receiver is going to be a pretty good wide receiver.
Oh yeah, he's going to be valuable.
I think that he's going to put up stats. I'm not sure that all that stuff's going to turn into wins for the Jets, and I would say maybe not. I mean, their defense was very good, and we'll give them that. But the thing is, when we're talking about competing in the AFC, which is the toughest conference, obviously, you've got to have offense. Like the Bills had one of the best defenses and still couldn't put Kansas City away. Like, so having the good defense thing is nice and it wins you regular season games, but when push comes to shove and you got to stop Patrick Mahomes or whomever else with all these weapons, if they were to make it to the Super Bowl and face like a Niners or something, like you still got to be able to stop. You still got to be able to score to outscore the opposing team. That's going to put up points, especially Kansas City, Buffalo. I mean, people aren't really giving credit, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but I think people are sleeping a little bit on how Buffalo has added this offseason because it wasn't any flashy person. And so everyone else went out and made some sort of flashy signing. The Jets got Aaron Rodgers, right? And then the Dolphins got Ramsey, and the Patriots are who they are. But, the Bills just kind of went along and filled some holes, and oh yeah, that's going to be a really nice piece here. But Kansas City won without some dynamic number one wide receiver. right? They had the quarterback and they had a really good tight end. And that's the thing, the tight end position here in New York is not very good. They have Conklin as their starter. I mean, this and Uzoma from Cincinnati, but they got the rookie Zach Kuntz in there too. But they
Yeah,
just
we talked about him a lot.
they
Not a
they
lot.
don't really fall. They're not really scaring me with this lineup. Like you say,
Mhm.
like I think Kenny said, Lazard and Hardman and those guys are average at best receivers. Now Lazard gets the, you know, younger guy with, the experience with Rodgers kind of thing on it. He's got that going for him. And we'll see. We'll see how Wilson and Lazard can pair together and throw McCole Hardman in the mix as a third. And, we'll see what they can do with it. It's not going to be and, I'm not saying they're not going to go out and score some points with Rodgers. That offense should be much improved. But will that translate into winning enough to be a Super Bowl contender? I don't think so. And I don't think at the end of the year, when it comes down to it, I don't think they're going to be even in second place for the division.
I got a couple things on, and then obviously we can keep it moving on the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. So I feel completely comfortable with either Tre'Davious White, Kyrie Elam, or Christian Benford one-on-one with Garrett Wilson all day long. I feel comfortable about that matchup all day long. And another thing about Aaron Rodgers is we've seen him get some injuries in the recent few years.
He just got injured.
The Bills loaded up on edge guys. We're loaded on defensive line and edge guys. So it just takes one hit, and then they're back to starting Zach Wilson. So he's not Josh Allen. He's not mobile. He's 40 years old. These injuries will, they'll lag on longer than usual. And he's had some injuries that were pretty substantial, that he's missed time or he's played through injuries. And so
he hurt his calf like
2 weeks ago.
practice one.
2 weeks ago.
So he's not 30 or 25-year-old Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be a pocket only quarterback where he needs to have his guys get separation and trust his players. And looking at the wide receiver lineup that we just gave, like, it looks decent on paper, but the Bills back seven, I'm okay with putting them up against what's going on with whoever the Jets are going to put out there, on top of the fact that the Jets right tackle is not that much better than Spencer Brown if he's as good as Spencer Brown. Okay, and we got a guy number 48 or number 40 that's ready to roll. And so that's something that we need to watch too. Like, I think not being talked about enough is, and what Lance loves to talk about, is the battle of the offensive and defensive lines. And the Bills have, I feel like, the best defensive line in this division, and it's not close. So I don't know. Is the Jets offensive line that good? Is the Dolphins offensive line that good? Is the Patriots offensive line that good to where this is not going to be a problem for any of these teams going up against the Bills defense? So
one final thing I want to say, and some of the comments are, I'll get to some of the comments. My girlfriend's coming in, need more than just AR. Oh, Aaron Rodgers. Awesome. Grandpa Randall Cobb. Let's see what else we got before I get to my point. Rodgers just too impatient to rebuild a team and lead them to a championship. His own line isn't strong enough either. I agree with the second part. He's not really rebuilding the team because I think the Jets have a overall better than a rebuilding kind of style of roster. Lazard was a wide receiver. I was hoping the Bills would pursue during free agency. I liked Lazard. His price tag, he got double-digit money. Like,
we already have him on the roster. His name is Gabe Davis.
Yeah, and he got double-digit money, right? Like, you got Trent Sherfield, Damian Harris, and Deontay Hardy combined for less money than you got Alan Lazard.
And Dalton Kincaid.
For less money than you got Alan Lazard, right? You could say Alan Lazard's better than Hardy and Sherfield, and I think he is.
Oh, for sure.
But I would rather have that 4 than that 1. I think it's more production for the Bills, and it's more what the Bills need outside of Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. It kind of fits the Bills more. Nothing against Alan Lazard.
Lazard was better in Green Bay than maybe Sherfield was in Miami under a limited role.
Yeah.
Hardy had an injured season, so we're not sure. Right. And now we've got Kincaid. So I think,
I know he's running back, but
and Harris, right? So like I think these guys, especially, I mean, everyone has been saying Hardy's just. I can't wait to get my eyes on this guy live in training camp because
He's
they
quick.
just are. They're very
He's quick.
excited about the way he moves so fluidly and quick. And yeah, he's quick. So it's one of those things where um, our offense lends itself well to those kind of players that are very dynamic. And I think that having all those options is going to prevent kind of what we were talking about with Diggs, where someone can just go and lock him down and prevent him from having an impact on the game. So I'm excited for that room without Lazard. I don't really see that he fit when we have, like you said, a carbon copy in Gabe Davis here.
And one final thing I've noticed, and the Bills have a tough schedule too, but the Jets beginning, and I live in this market, right? Like I live in I'm 45 minutes outside New York City. So I live in the Jets Giants market. I listen to WFAN, all that kind of stuff. I'm outside the Bills, I guess, quote unquote market, right? And we know how New York market, the New York City market, how toxic it is, and how brutal it is, right? And expectations are massive. Expectations are massive for the Jets, like massive. Their opening 5 to 7 games is unreal. It gets easier after that, but it's unreal how hard these games are for them. Home against the Bills, at Dallas, home against the Patriots, who they've refused to beat in the last years. They should beat them, but Bill Belichick has their number. So home against the Patriots, home against the Chiefs, at Denver, who we think are probably better, but they should win that game, you would think. Home against the Eagles, team that was just in the Super Bowl. At the Giants, playoff team. Home against the Chargers. At the Raiders. At the Bills. And then home against the Dolphins.
Yeah, tough stretch.
That's end of November. That gets you to November 24th. That is a tough schedule, right? Like, there's a chance they go into New England 0-2. They go into losing to Buffalo week 1, losing at Dallas week 2, and then you're 0-2 and the sky's falling. Like, the sky's absolutely falling if they're 0-2 going into New England. The media's going to kill them. Rodgers is going to be cranky with the media. He's going to be cranky with his teammates. It could turn into a disaster. If they can be average or be above average or even better than that, they'll have a great season. But those games I just mentioned, that last game against Miami, that's November 24th. Those are all really hard games. Like, I guess at Denver's quote unquote easy. I would assume Denver's going to be a little better than they were last year. Like, I'm not going to say Denver's a lock to make the playoffs, but they cannot be as bad as they were last year because that was atrocious. At the Raiders is not an easy game. Raiders have a ton of talent on that team. They're just better, but how many times in football do we see the reverse happen? I just think that Jets schedule is tough, and I think that's one of the factors where I think the Jets have a good record, but it starts slow and it doesn't get as good as people think, right? Like 12 wins, I think, is an absurd amount of wins people are saying for the Jets, right?
They're going to be. I have them like 4-7. Just looking through that stretch, like 4-7 coming out of that in your first 12 weeks. That's going to be tough, dude.
Like Bills, Cowboys, that's not easy. That's not easy. So I think that's another thing. And then obviously they get Atlanta, they get Houston. It opens up towards the end of the year.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Washington. Yeah.
It goes Atlanta, Houston, then at Miami, not easy, home against Commanders, and then at the Browns and at the Patriots, right? Like Jets have a hard schedule. Like Jets have a really hard schedule. They have a harder schedule than the Bills.
The Bills just need to come out and set the tone like they did last year.
Beat week 1.
I feel like last year would have been a lot different if Hyde didn't go down against Tennessee and if Vaughn didn't go down. If we could play somewhat of a clean season, and I know that happens, every team gets injuries, and I know all that, but if the Bills had Hyde and Vaughn all year, we're talking about a completely different outcome against the Bengals or whoever we end up playing. So if the Bills can stay healthy and they come out like they did last year, where they just didn't give a shit and they just were lighting up everybody the first 2 weeks, and then the Miami game, but then they put it on Pittsburgh, and they were playing. And my biggest thing for the Bills is in years past, they've always come out kind of flat. Under Brian Daboll, they always kind of came out flat, trying to figure some things out. But if the Bills come out and they're on it, and like you said, and then they're 0-1, the Jets are 0-1, then they play the Cowboys. Like 0-2 is a tough pocket to be in ultra competitive AFC East.
In NFL, it is. You don't want to be 0-2. There's some stat every time the team's 0-2, some NFL like CBS or Fox, right? You see that same graphic every year.
Yeah, every
Here
year.
are the 0-2 teams. How many teams percent-wise have made the playoffs at 0-2? And it's like, Lance, what is it? Less than 30, right? Like that. Does that sound like 25 sounds like ring a bell, like something like that? I don't know off the top of my head. You don't want to start 0-2, right? It's just like not what you want to be doing in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a deep hole to get in, but I will tell you though, I'd rather whatever team you root for, whatever it is, be playing better in November and December.
No, 100%.
You know,
100%.
so
I'm just saying.
I think they'll probably take some lumps just because.
Well, they're gonna
system.
Quarterback, yeah.
He's playing for a completely different coach for the first time in his career. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers for the first time in his well,
Matt LaFleur.
Right. He's playing in a new city, different team. Like he's going to go through. Yeah, he's 40 and he's a vet, but he's still going to go through it. He's still going to go through his new receivers. He's going to go through his new offensive line, the new play scheme, all that stuff. So plus he's now playing for a defensive-minded head coach, which he's not done before.
Who's on the hot seat?
Right. So, we'll see what happens.
He's like Joe Douglas. Robert Saleh has huge expectations. Like this is year 3. He hasn't made the playoffs. It's been over 500. How many coaches, if they don't make the playoffs this year, have survived after 3 years from not sniffing the playoffs? No, I don't. There's probably none. So yeah. Lance, you want to keep moving?
Yeah, the answer was 30, just so you know. So 30%. It was 30 teams have 11% of teams, 30 teams total have made.
So I said so it's 11%.
Yeah, 11%.
You do not want to be 0-2. You do not want to even sniff 0-2. What we can quickly go through this one. What's up is we see you in the comments. Red Zone Report on Sunday, part of the Built in Buffalo Network. Great show. Great human being. That was too nice. I think it was too nice to Izzy right there. But I call him a great human. No, I'm joking. What to make of Mac Jones? And I would say this is a Patriots question. What to make of Mac Jones and the Patriots as a whole, Lance? Well, not rapid fire, but thoughts, and we'll keep the ladder moving.
First of all, Nathaniel Hackett is an absolute joke. All right, so like Hackett has been an offensive coordinator for teams I've rooted for over the years, and he was the Syracuse offensive coordinator. He was the Bills offensive coordinator. I met him on the field before the Green Bay game, actually, back in 2008 or whatever it was, or no,
nice guy,
14, 15, whatever. Great, probably a great human being. But as a coach, the only thing he has going for him is that his dad was good and he got Aaron Rodgers. Those are the only things that make Hackett attractive at all. He stunk at Syracuse. He stunk in Buffalo. He stinks everywhere. He just has a great quarterback that he gets lucky with. So I'm sorry to go on that rant a little bit, but I really don't like Nathaniel Hackett. I've not liked him from the time he's been at Syracuse years ago. And so on to the next team in the AFC East, the New England Patriots. So I'll give you this one first here, Peter. What do you make of Mac Jones?
He's an above average quarterback. I got to watch him practice every week last year covering the Patriots for my internship. And I got to watch every home game. I was at every home game. He's a great guy. He's a really nice guy. I met him a couple times. A great guy's a tough thing to say because I don't know him personally. I met him a couple times, right? He's a nice guy. Sounds like a good guy. His media presence a little interesting, little bit dork, kind of quirky kind of guy, which is totally fine. Be whoever you want. He's an above average quarterback, right? He was benched for Bailey Zappi, who I was at that Bears Monday night game when they were chanting Zappy, Zappy, Zappy after Mac Jones' first 2 possessions were terrible. Bill Belichick goes to Zappy. Zappy has 2 good drives. They score, I believe, either 2 touchdowns or a touchdown and a field goal. And then Zappy stinks for the rest of the game, and they get smoked on Monday Night Football against the Chicago Bears, right? So Zappy wasn't a good quarterback. Like that notion that Zappy was like some like the second coming of like he was not that good. It's just Mac Jones wasn't great. Mac Jones is probably in the 15 to 20 range, probably closer to 20 than he is 15. He's an above average quarterback. You can win games with Mac Jones with a great roster, but the Patriots don't have a great roster. They don't have a great system in place for their offense. I think bringing in Bill O'Brien's going to help, But the thing what they did with Mac Jones, it was kind of unfair to him last year, right? Like you had no offensive coach in place to develop a quarterback. That's not on Mac Jones. And he was frustrated with it. I would be frustrated because you brought in, you had, who did they have? They had Matt Patricia and Joe Judge running the offensive system. That's terrible. Matt Patricia is an offensive coordinator. It was an absurd move by Bill Belichick. And I think his ego got in his way. So Mac Jones is above average quarterback. I think he's on his best day a Kirk Cousins. On his best day, he's a Kirk Cousins. I don't think he sniffs that half the time. He's a younger Jimmy G. I think Jimmy G's probably been in when Jimmy G's healthy, he's better than Mac Jones. I totally see that comparison. No. So look, I think this Patriots team sits so far back with the talent on this team, but I think Mac Jones is a good guy. Like I think he gets a little too much hate, but he's never gonna be a superstar. But we saw that when he was coming out of the draft. Like we knew right away. I never thought Mac Jones was going to be a star. I thought Mac Jones could be a solid QB with the right system. I think great backup is kind of a stretch. Mac Jones 100% could be a starter in this league. I just don't think he's a great or can be a great quarterback.
Yeah, I think Mac Jones is he's a game managing quarterback. I don't think you're ever going to want to have put it all on his plate. He's not that guy. He's the guy that if you have a good system in place, you got a decent offensive line, some good skill position players, he can score you points. But if you look at their roster, they got Ramondre Stevenson, who they got 1,000 yards last year, so he's not that bad of a back. And then they have Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, and Kendrick Bourne. And then
I hate Devontae Parker.
Hunter Henry, and they signed Mike Gesicki. So they didn't
really on that Thornton kid though too. Not to cut it off.
Tyquan Thornton.
Just while we're mentioning, they really do like that Tyquan Thornton kid.
Yeah, I'm not saying Mac Jones is a bad quarterback because I think he's gotten an unfair shake. Last year was a disaster.
It was unfair.
But if you go back and you look at the Bills 24-10 win earlier in the season, the Bills looked like they were playing with the Patriots. Like they looked disinterested. No matter what the Patriots tried to do on offense, the Bills weren't having it. And Josh Allen scored a couple touchdowns, and it was like they were trying to. The Bills ran the ball. I think they had like 175 yards or something rushing that game, and it was just they were disinterested. And I haven't seen much in the offseason for them to try to go from here to compete with the Bills. They haven't tried to close the gap.
Mm-hmm.
They had a decent draft, but other than that, I mean, unless they pull out this DeAndre Hopkins signing, which who knows what's going to go on with that. I don't, they got Bill O'Brien, but I don't know. I don't see Bill Belichick just having one of his great coaching years where he has these guys. A lot of the ones that were there last year just pull out, 9, 10, 11 wins. I don't see them winning more than like 6 or 7 games this year. So I don't know. It'll be
just
interesting.
Looking at the schedule going over their opening stretch, they're going to be probably 0-4. They got the Eagles and the Dolphins at home, and they're going to New York and to face the Jets, and then at Dallas. I mean,
1-3.
That's easily 0-4. Could be 1-3 at best.
I'll say 1-3.
And they have New Orleans coming in. New Orleans coming in is like you're not sure how that system's going to evolve with Carr in it. And then they go at LA at the Las Vegas Raiders. Winnable game there, and then Buffalo at home. So I mean, easily a 2-7 or a 2-5 start. Make it 2-6 with Miami the next. So it could easily be a 2-5, 2-6 start, and being generous. And if things don't click right away, it's tough. I think people don't understand how difficult it is. Even though Bill O'Brien may be a good offensive coordinator, this is still going to be Mac Jones' first year in the system. Like it may not click right away. We've got all these new pieces in New England that you mentioned. Juju's coming over, right? They just signed Gesicki. So Thornton is going to be a young guy trying to make it. Bourne is going to be a guy trying to make it in the system. These guys aren't guys that have been in this system for years by any means. And so that takes time to develop. I'm not sure I think Mac Jones is average at best, and I just don't see where this team's going moving forward. I think it's going to be a tough uphill battle, even with D-Hop. I just don't see them competing. They're a bottom, uh, you know, fourth place team in this division.
Yeah. I think after Juju on the wide, besides if they get DeAndre Hopkins, after Juju, that wide receiver core is very suspect. Like Devontae Parker was not good last year. Hasn't been able to stay healthy. Kendrick Bourne wasn't productive last year. And even called out the system and coaching last year during the season. And then Tyquan Thornton, who was injured most of his rookie year, who they have huge expectations and high praise for him coming in year 2. And I think he'll be probably their wide receiver 2 production-wise, minus DeAndre Hopkins. Ramondre Stevenson's very good, but their O-line's not good. Their defense is good, but then they just lost Jack Jones, right? Their second corner alongside Christian Gonzalez, who decided to bring 2 guns into an airport and thought that was a good idea. And now he's arrested and probably going to be suspended or cut. So that's another day, another topic for another day, I guess. But it's a Patriots team that is relying on coaching to win games this year, right? Like, and that's tough in the National Football League where there's so many elite quarterbacks in their division and in the conference and in the National Football League. I think the Patriots are have a talent issue, and coaching and experience only can get you so far. And it's going to get them to the 7, in my opinion, 8, maybe 9 wins. And that's probably my ceiling, in my opinion, for them. 9 wins. I probably see them sitting at 7 and 8 wins. And that might be even generous. You never know. So
Patriots at 8 wins? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It'd be tough for them to get more than 6, I think. But
what did they get last year?
I don't know. What's that have to do with this year?
Well, I think the roster's better than they were last year. You know that the roster was. I think they got better.
I don't know. They didn't have to play Aaron Rodgers last year twice.
And I think the easiest way to measure where the Patriots are going to finish. Yeah, the easiest way to figure out where the Patriots are going to finish in the AFC East is they have the 4th best quarterback in the division. And I can say that comfortably that Mac Jones is not better than Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, or Tua. So
I think 7 wins, 7 and 10 for the Patriots. I know you guys are giving me crazy looks right now.
No, I said they'd win 7. I said 7 or 8 wins. I think that's doable because the division games are always weird. Look at the Bills last year. All the division games were crazy except for the Bills blowout of the Patriots. All the games were close. Even the Week 18 game coming off of the DeMar Hamlin thing, like the Bills came out with all this energy, but the Patriots hung in there. That was a game for a while. The Bills pulled out late, but all the division games last year were insane. It's
division games. They're always
Sean McDermott always says that the AFC East games are always dogfights. They're always dogfights.
And I think they're going to be. I mean, obviously you have a well-coached defense in New England, so it's always going to be a puncher's chance kind of thing. Where if Stevenson gets hot for a game and he can carry the rock and score on some people, or if Mac does find a groove in this offense, we don't know. My biggest thing is I think that this year is a little bit too much to really look for them to have much success because of all the moving parts. Everything's sort of new. Some of the receivers are new as well, and Mac's just not that good in my opinion. I think you're being very generous to him, and that's fair if that's your assessment on him. I just think that he and the team as a whole stinks.
Whose assessment? My assessment?
Yeah, Peter, your assessment.
I think he was above average.
Above average. Yeah, I think he's not.
Dang. I think he got a completely raw deal last year.
I have to live with a New England fan every day, so
I go to school. I
need to maintain that.
I just think he got a raw deal last year, in my opinion. And watching him up close a couple times and being in the locker room a handful of times, I just thought he got a raw deal, and I think he's better than what people think he is. But what he thinks he is not that good. Like, he's a poor man's Kirk Cousins, in my opinion. Okay, enough Patriots talk. Let's get to the Dolphins quickly here. Can Tua stay healthy? That's the main, I guess, succession of where the Dolphins stand going into this year. Their roster's good. They have good weapons. They have a solid defense, good secondary. But can their quarterback stay healthy? Lance, what do we got?
Yeah, I just read someone commented. I didn't see if this was true or not that Tyreek Hill is having some issues.
Yes, that is true.
With some
He's
charges,
having some legal issues again.
Yeah, so that's tough, man. If he's gonna Missed
I
time
can
with that, and
I can tell you what it is before you get to Tua. Tyreek Hill. This was an hour ago. Bleacher Report put it out per a news station in South Florida News. It says Tyreek Hill is under police investigation after allegedly hitting a man at a marina in Miami on Sunday.
at least it wasn't a woman this time, so that's good.
It wasn't last time
Um,
his kids. I
It
don't
was
think it
his
was
kids
it was
last
his
time.
kids.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that makes it better at all.
No,
No,
That's not
that's
where I was
no,
going there.
so.
no.
I'm just
I think
kidding.
that
Either way, it's
yeah, for sure. I think that Tua is such a interesting player, sort of this enigma of flashing talent at times. One of those kids that just seems like he always goes out and works his butt off. He has that. He's left-handed, so he has that kind of intriguing set about him since he is left-handed. But you know, it's tough, man. It's gonna be a tough battle with them. I think they overachieved at times with a subpar offensive line, and um, I don't know that they've really gone ahead and fixed it. And time will tell. I guess you have Armstead, Liam Eichenberg, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, and Austin Jackson slotted in on their depth chart right now. But we'll see how that turns out. But boy, I don't.
Kenny's right. It's hot garbage. I don't want.
I don't know. They're outside of Hill and Waddle. They just don't have much either. It's like they sign Braxton Berrios. They have Cedric Wilson. They have Robbie Chosen. Man, I don't know. It's going to be
Did you
tough.
just throw
I
out
think.
Robbie Chosen?
Yeah, I don't know. Is
Who
that
the heck is
used to be
Robbie
Robbie
Chosen?
Anderson? Used to be Robbie Anderson.
Oh, it is Robbie Anderson.
Robbie
Chosen
Anderson
one.
When did he change his name to Robbie Chosen?
last year.
That's what?
He's like Robbie the Chosen One or something.
Oh my God.
He's trying to be like Ocho Cinco, I think.
Well, that's a crazy move for not a good wide receiver.
But
Oh my
but
God.
really, really decent. I mean, they have a good defensive line. For the
They have a
most
really
part.
good defensive line.
Yeah, they have a good
and
defense.
and then they have their linebacking crew's good, and obviously we know their secondary. So man, really, how far? Again, we're talking about how far a defense can carry a team, because you have a decent running back stable there in Miami with an off injured quarterback, and if he stays healthy, who knows what happens? But just everything else around him is just always in flux, it seems. So just in the NFL these days, I really think you got to have that offense to compete in these games. And the defense is nice, and it's going to win you games in the regular season. But from going into this playoffs with such a good defense from the Bills' standpoint in the last few years, it hasn't mattered how good their defense was. Now, were we without Von Miller last year? Yes. But we were without Von Miller the year before, and we're really competitive and nearly there. So, it's tough to say that defense doesn't necessarily win championships these days any longer. You really have to be able to score.
Dave, what are your overall assessment of the Miami Dolphins? Could be Tua, it could be just Miami Dolphins as a whole.
I mean, there's a lot of ways you can kind of dissect this, and I've been listening to a lot of Bills media podcasts about comparing the division and stuff like that. And to me, it does boil down to if Tua can stay healthy, right? Because it's a huge concern. If you like the Dolphins or not, we're talking about a man's health, right? We're talking about a man who had 2 nasty concussions in 4 days. So the last I've seen of Tua in Dolphins camp, he looked like he was a little overweight. He looked kind of out of shape. I don't know if that's just what he wanted to look like for mandatory camp, and he's going to come back leaner. But there's tape on that Dolphins offense where there wasn't last year because it was new. It was Mike McDaniel's offense. So there's tape on that offense, just like there's tape on every other team and quarterback in the league. So teams can prepare a little better for, all the, 10-yard slant routes that they're going to try to throw to get the 70 yards of yak on every play. So, which Trent Sherfield against the 49ers was a nice yak play. So I'm glad that the Bills nabbed him. But their receivers, like after if you can take care of Waddell, and I know it's a big ask, if you can take care of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, like after that, like it's like the Bills last year. There was nobody else to go to. So the biggest question is if Tua can stay healthy, and is he the real deal? Like every Dolphins fan in my mentions is saying on Twitter that he's better than Josh Allen, and he's the third or fourth best quarterback in the NFL, and he's the real deal. Watch when he stays healthy and stuff like that. Well, we have to find out because he hasn't played a full season since he's been in the NFL. And he has injury concerns, not just the concussions, but dating back to when he was with Alabama. So we'll see. The defense is, like Izzy was alluding to, the defense is really good.
It's very good. Yeah.
Plus, they have Nick Fangio now, which love him or hate him as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, he's really good. He's a really good defensive mind. So if they can bring that all together and get Bradley Chubb to come to his full potential, and they got Jalen Phillips and Christian Wilkins, and we know the DBs that they got. So it's going to be, I think the Dolphins are going to be the toughest out for the Bills. I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle for the Bills to win the AFC East for the fourth year in a row.
Dolphins are a very, very good team, right? Like they beat the Bills first game or the first time they played them in the regular season. Bills beat them the second time, and the Dolphins gave the Bills an absolute run for their money in that wild card game. I also think the Bills kind of did that to themselves. A couple uncharacteristic turnovers, didn't really put Miami away, kind of got away from their offensive system that worked so well in their first couple of drives of the game. So I think that was kind of more on the Bills, in my opinion, than the Dolphins in that wild card game. If Tua can stay healthy, they're a playoff team, they're a division contender. If he's in and out and all that kind of stuff, then they're a non-factor in the playoffs. Right? I think Mike McDaniel is such an overrated head coach. I am not a Mike McDaniel fan, but I'm a fan of this roster and this roster construction. They're good in the secondary. I think Jalen Ramsey is still good. I don't think Xavier Howard's still the Xavier Howard from a couple years ago, but he's still a solid corner. Christian Wilkins off the middle is really good. Bradley Chubb's good. So I think the Dolphins roster and their defense is very good. Their O-line, Kenny said it earlier, hot garbage. Their O-line's not good, but you have Waddle, you have Tyreek Hill. It's a system that works. It's a system for Tua that's a simple system, right? Like you have two really fast skill receivers on the outside, and all you got to do is you get them the ball and they do the rest, right? Like it's an easy run system. I just don't know if Tua can stay healthy. I hope he can for his mental health and for his long-term like life health. We are not talking about a guy that has had back-to-back ankle breaks or ACLs or something like that. We're talking about a guy that has had, like Dave said, 2 concussions in 4 to 5 days, right? This is a guy that could have long-term health issues if he gets another concussion, right? And it's football. Stuff happens. He's still going to get hit, right? Like you can't not hit the guy. You're paid to hit the guy as a defensive player. But I think the Dolphins with the Jets are right on the Bills. You know what? Do they have enough to get over the hump? I don't know. I don't trust Mike McDaniel. I don't love the O-line. And I still don't think Tua's a great quarterback. I still don't think he's a great quarterback. I think he's above average. I think he's a good quarterback. And I think he had a very good productive year 2, or was it year 3 in the system? Was it year 2 or year 3? Year 3. Year 3 for the Dolphins. But his health concerns, and I still don't think he's doesn't have great talent, and his arm throwing isn't the best. But I still think the Dolphins are going to be pain in the you-know-what. They're pain in the you-know-what's last year. They're going to be pain in the you-know-what's again this year.
So something. Sorry to cut you off.
Does Tyreek Hill not being there affect how good this team is?
Oh yeah, if Tyreek Hill is suspended or anything, yeah, they're not a playoff team. Tyreek Hill's a top 5, top 6 wide receiver in the National Football League. With just Jalen Waddle, they're a shell of themselves offensively because you can just literally just take away Jalen Waddle and they don't really do it. They don't really scare you on offense, in my opinion. With Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they're dynamic on the outside.
Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
No, it's cool. Something to think about. If you have a quarterback who now they haven't extended him, so he's still playing on his rookie deal.
Yeah.
If you have a quarterback who has had concussion issues, And it was a huge deal. We all know how big of a deal that was in the national media last year about the training staff of the Miami Dolphins and then the NFL experts that are supposed to oversee all that. If I'm a GM, the first thing I would do would be to look at my offensive line and address my offensive line to make sure that I'm doing what I can to protect him, because he can't protect Tua. He can't protect Tua from himself, but he can protect Tua with putting people in place that's their job, right? So to me, it just what the Bills did systematically this offseason, and I alluded to it earlier with the battle in the trenches, what the Bills did systematically this offseason, whether it be early on in free agency, through the draft, and then, sprinkle in some signings here and there, the Bills are going to be dominant, I believe, up front, whether it's defense or on offense. If you look at what the Bills were able to do on their offensive line, I feel out of all 4 teams in the AFC East, they're the only ones that improved at their offensive line. Call it what you want. There was no flashy signings. Yes, the draft was nice with getting Osiris, and then they signed McGovern early on. But the Bills, I feel like, are the only team that upgraded the offensive line. And then if you look at the defensive side of it, I feel like the Bills are also the only team that actually went out and improved off of what they did the year before. They got Leonard Floyd. That's not that signing is extremely underrated. The way he plays and feeds off of Von Miller, go back and watch when they were together in LA. Like it's crazy the amount of pressure that they're going to bring. So I don't know. I think this isn't getting talked about enough. The fact that the offensive and defensive line for the Bills is what we have all been talking about as Bills fans. Sure as hell been talking about the offensive line after what happened to Josh last year against the Jets, and then him running for his life most of the last 3 years. And Bean, I thought, taking time and looking back at how the offseason was constructed, I feel like he did a great job giving this team and this roster added depth and starting quality players. I mean, the Bills' 4th best edge rusher is AJ Epinesa, in my opinion. And he had 6.5 sacks last year. You got Von Miller, who's probably, if he plays the whole season, will get double digits. Leonard Floyd hasn't had a season under 9 in the last 3 years. And then you have Greg Rousseau, I think we all know is going to take a huge leap this year if he stays healthy. So that's one thing you got to look at is Miami Dolphins have a quarterback that has this injury history, and the Bills are chomping at the bit to get after it. So yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out too. Because I don't think a lot of national media they're already crowning the Dolphins as overseeing the Bills and taking that AFC East crown away from them. So it's going to be real interesting. Nobody's talking about the fact that the Bills are going to get after the ball. Plus, in Sean McDermott's tenure with the Eagles and with the Carolina Panthers, they were getting 50, 55, 60 sacks a year. And you got to think that part of the reason why Leslie Frazier left or walked away in his own or whatever was the lack of the pressure in the 2 playoff games. The Bills were not getting after the quarterback in those 2 postseason games at all. Now, I know Von Miller being out was one thing, but they had other guys that are serviceable edge defenders. So if Von starts the season and is not on the PUP list or, the short-term IR, I think the Bills they're going to be aggressive and they're going to be coming after these quarterbacks, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah,
Von Miller's going to play week 1.
I know.
I've been saying that. I've been saying that since March that he's not going to. Have you seen the guy at camp? The dude's quads have their own zip code. Like it's absolutely insane. Like it's nuts.
To end the show here,
Keem's going to owe me some money.
Sorry. Oh no. Yeah, Lance and Dave, you guys both been on the Von Miller week 1 status, so we're a little past our time here, but we're gonna go rapid fire to end the show. Way too early AFC East predictions. No thought, no description behind it. I don't want to hear you. No, I'm joking. But yeah, so Lance, Dave, I'm going to start with you. You're the guest. Give me your AFC East predictions, and we'll go to Lance, we'll go to me, and then we'll say goodnight.
You want win-losses in order?
No, you can just go 4-3-2-1 or 1-2.
4-3-2-1. All right, I'll go
4.
4 is the Patriots, 3 is the Jets, 2 is the Dolphins and the Bills. I think win the AFC East. I think they go 13-4. Honestly,
Lance?
pretty
Bills
confident.
Bills are the number one team in the division, and then it's going to be close. I really have to see what's happening with Tyreek Hill, because if he's not going to be there, that's going to be trouble. So I'm going to put Jets 2, Dolphins 3, and Patriots 4. By a long shot.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Because
Patriots.
Mac Jones isn't good.
I'm gonna go Patriots 4. I'm gonna go Dolphins 3. I'm gonna go Jets 2. I'm gonna go Bills 1. I don't trust Tua at 3 with the health issues, and I think maybe like the Jets and Dolphins battle it out for that second spot. Close, could be a tiebreaker type of thing. Kenny's coming in. Bills 13-4, Jets 11-6, Dolphins 9-8, and Patriots 5-12. Well, this was a absolute fun episode, Dave. As always, we appreciate you coming on. Oops, my bad. You're always sorry, Lance. You're always welcome to join the program. But plug your social, and when's your show coming back?
So I'm rolling out a show. It's going to be called Off the Edge. It's going to be Wednesday nights here, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Me and Akeem are bringing back Billsology. It's going to start in July, second week of July. It's going to be on Saturday nights. So we're pretty excited about that. But my socials right there on Twitter, if you guys want to follow my rants and my takes on the Bills and everything else, Buffalo Bills football, right there. So yeah, and just know that in the second week of July, we have a full slate coming for live shows. We got a lot of good stuff lined up. Obviously Buffalo Blitz will be back. The Bills chat guys are coming back pretty soon. We got some other stuff lined up. So thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Yeah. Lance, tell everyone where they can find our sponsor.
Yeah, we're sponsored here by Underdog Fantasy, the best daily fantasy app and website in the universe. So go ahead, sign up on the app or on the website. You can use the promo code BLITZ, BLITZ. You'll get a deposit match from $10 up to $100.
Yeah, Underdog Fantasy, as always. If you guys missed this episode, you can rewatch this on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. If you prefer the podcast version, this comes out tomorrow morning. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. We'll be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. talking more Bills. And we appreciate everyone that liked, that commented, that subscribed to all the social medias, and everyone that was in the comment section. Ton of comments tonight. We appreciate everyone. Made the show a ton of fun. He was Dave, he was Lance, and I was Peter. And as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.